The marketplace was loud, crowded, and cruel. Lights flickered above broken metal stalls, and strange alien voices filled the air like a storm. But in the middle of all that noise, a young alien woman stood completely still, quiet, small, and almost invisible to everyone around her. Her name was Lyra. She held $2, tightly squeezed between her fingers. Those $2 were the last thing she owned. She had no home, no family, no food, no hope. And in that marketplace, where people were sold like cheap objects, $2 meant nothing. Not even enough for a meal. Not even enough for respect. Lyra's clothes were torn. Her boots were old. Dirt covered her arms. She looked weak, as if the wind could push her down. Aliens passed by her, not even turning their heads. Some pointed at her, some laughed. One alien whispered loudly to a friend, "She is worthless, not even worth a full coin." Lyra heard every word. Her eyes dropped to the dusty ground. She believed them. She had been told the same thing again and again. Her own people treated her as if she had no value, as if she was just an extra thing in the world. She walked slowly, trying to find food in the trash bins. Her hands shook from hunger. It had been 2 days since she ate anything real. She stopped in front of a big metal sign, "Women for HFY clearance prices." Her heart broke a little more. This was her reality. This was her life. She looked at the $2 in her hand and wondered if this was all she would ever be worth. Suddenly, she felt a presence behind her. A shadow slowly covered her feet. Someone tall was standing just a few steps away. Lyra froze. Her people always told her, if a human ever sees you alone, run. They said humans were dangerous, strong, unpredictable. They said humans would use you or hurt you. So Lyra didn't turn around at first. She kept her head down. Her breath came out fast. Then a deep voice spoke, a voice she had never heard before. "Why is someone like you worth only $2? Lyra's heart jumped. The voice was warm, not angry, not mocking, curious, but gentle. Slowly, carefully, she lifted her head, and for the first time in her life, she saw a human up close. He was tall, with dark hair and calm eyes. His clothes were simple, but clean. He didn't look like the cruel monster her people described. Instead, he looked concerned, as if her pain mattered to him, as if he saw her when no one else did. Lyra took a step back. Fear and confusion mixed in her chest. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. They usually stayed in groups, in their own protected zones. But this man was alone, and he was watching her with a strange expression, something she had never seen directed at her. Kindness. He looked at the sign behind her, then at the $2 in her hand, then back into her eyes. "You look scared," he said quietly. "Are you in danger?" Lyra opened her mouth, but no words came out. She had never been asked that question before. No one cared if she was in danger. No one cared about her at all. The human took one step forward. The marketplace went silent around her. At least it felt silent. Her heartbeat was so loud it seemed to fill her ears. Lyra whispered, barely audible, I have nothing." The human kneeled slightly so he was level with her eyes. "Everyone has something," he said. "Even you." His voice was soft but strong. A voice that did not belong in this cruel place. Lyra didn't understand why, but for the first time in a long time, she felt seen. Before she could speak again, a loud shout came from behind. "There she is! That one belongs to us." Lyra's breath stopped. The human slowly turned toward the voice, and the real story began. The voice that shouted across the marketplace was harsh and sharp, like broken metal. Lyra felt her heart freeze the moment she heard it. She knew that voice. She remembered it from the nights she tried to hide. It belonged to one of the sellers who claimed ownership of her after her parents disappeared. The human stood tall, Beside her, his eyes turning cold and serious. A small group of aliens pushed through the crowd, big, rough, and angry. Their eyes locked on Lyra like hunters spotting prey. She ran away, the tallest alien growled. She's our property. Lyra lowered her head, shame burning in her chest. She wished she could disappear into the ground. She wished she didn't have to explain anything to this human who showed her kindness. She wished she wasn't seen. Like this, weak, scared, and unwanted, the human stepped slightly in front of her. She is not property, he said calmly. She's a person, the aliens laughed. A cruel, ugly sound. To you humans maybe, one said. But here? She is a $2 mistake. Lyra felt those words stab into her heart again. $2 mistake. $2 life. $2 future. She wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. Fear filled her chest like heavy smoke. The sellers moved closer, and the biggest one pointed at Lyra. She comes with us, or there will be trouble. The human didn't move. He didn't even blink. Why does she belong to you? The sellers exchanged glances, annoyed, confused, suspicious. Humans weren't supposed to ask questions. Humans weren't supposed to get involved in local business. She was left behind during the raids, the tall alien said. No family, no credits, worth nothing, so we picked her up. Picked her up, the human repeated. Like trash? Like something to sell. Lyra squeezed her eyes shut, her past flooding back. She remembered the night the soldiers came. The fires, the screams. Her mother pushing her into a closet and whispering, "Don't come out, no matter what." She remembered the silence afterward. She remembered walking out into an empty house. She remembered the sellers finding her, dirty and alone, and saying she would make a good deal. She remembered the cold rooms, the work, the fear. She remembered giving everything, strength, time, hope, just to survive every day. And now, she remembered standing with only $2 in her hand. The human turned his head slightly, as if sensing her pain without her saying anything. You don't want to go with them, he said softly. Lyra shook her head, her voice trembling. No, I don't. The seller stepped forward again, pushing people aside. Move, human, she's ours. The human stood firm, but he didn't raise his fists. He didn't reach for a weapon. He simply looked at the aliens with calm, steady eyes. Did she choose? You? He asked. They laughed again. Choice? She doesn't get to choose. The human's jaw tightened. Something about that sentence bothered him deeply, like it struck a part of his own past. He looked at Lyra again. You can choose, he said. Do you want to go with them? Lyra felt her breath shake. She looked at the sellers. She looked at the human. She looked at her $2. She looked at her empty future. And deep inside her chest, something small whispered, please. Not. Again, she shook her head. No, she whispered. I choose. Not them. The human nodded once, like he already knew her answer. The sellers growled in anger. Then the human pays. $2. For what she's worth. Lyra's cheeks burned. With embarrassment, she lowered her head again. Was that really all she was? But the human only looked at her, not at the money, not at the sellers. Only her. That's not her worth, he said quietly. The sellers clenched their fists. The crowd backed away. Trouble was coming, and Lyra's life was about to change again. Asterisk. The marketplace grew quieter, as if every creature there felt something dangerous was about to happen. The sellers stepped closer, forming a half circle around Lyra and the human. Their faces were tight with anger, their eyes full of greed. The human stood calmly, but there was strength in his posture, steady, unshaken, almost protective. He didn't shove, didn't yell, didn't show fear. He simply watched the sellers with a slow, controlled breath. What do you want with this girl? The tallest seller asked in a sharp voice. The human tilted his head slightly. I want to know why. She is treated like a broken object. She is a runaway, another seller snapped. She belongs to us. She belongs to no one, the human said firmly. Lyra felt something strange in her chest, something warm and confusing. No one had ever spoken for her before. Not like this. The tallest seller smirked. Humans always act like heroes. But even heroes pay $2. Give it to us. Lyra's grip tightened around her money. She wished she could throw it away. She wished she could stop hearing that number. It reminded her of how the world saw her. The human finally spoke again. His voice low but full of meaning. Her value is not $2, he said. Her value is not for you to decide. The sellers frowned. Then what? You want to fight for her? The human shook his head. No, I don't fight unless I must. His eyes moved toward Lyra, softening. I only want to talk to her, alone. The sellers hissed like angry insects. Talk? Why would you talk to someone like her? The human ignored them and looked at Lyra. His gaze was gentle but deep, like he was searching her soul. You look hungry, he said quietly. When did you last eat? Lyra blinked. No one had ever asked her such a simple question with so much care. Her throat tightened and she whispered, 2 days ago. The human nodded once. And you have no family? She shook her head. No, no place to live. She shook it again. Do you want to stay here with them? Lyra didn't even think. Her body reacted before her mind. She whispered, no. The human stood straighter and turned to the sellers. I am taking her with me. The sellers exploded with anger. Human, you don't make the rules here. The biggest one stepped forward, pointing a long metal staff toward the human. You think you can just walk in and take what you want? You think your human kindness matters here? The human's eyes turned sharp. Kindness always matters. His voice dropped lower. Leave him here. The sellers lifted their staffs, ready to threaten him further. People around the marketplace backed away, expecting a fight. But the human raised one hand slowly, not to strike, but to signal them to stop. I have no wish for violence, he said. I came here looking for supplies, not conflict. The tallest seller growled. Then leave the girl. The human shook his head slowly. I can't. Why? The sellers demanded. Why do you care about her so much? Lyra held her breath, afraid of the answer, afraid of being disappointed again. The human looked at her as he spoke. Because someone once cared for me when I had nothing. I will not ignore someone in the same pain. Lyra's heart almost stopped. The sellers didn't care about his story. They stepped even closer, surrounding him tightly now. You're not walking away with her, the leader snarled. The human's expression changed. Calm, but ready. His hand lowered to his side, not for a weapon, just steadying himself. If you try to stop me, he said softly, you will fail. The sellers tensed. The crowd held their breath, and Lyra realized something. This human wasn't just being kind. He was willing to risk everything for her. Asterisk. The sellers moved in first. Their heavy boots thudded on the metal ground as they tightened the circle around the human and Lyra. The crowd watched silently from a distance, afraid to get involved. Marketplace fights were common, but no one wanted to be near humans when trouble started. Lyra's hands trembled. She had never seen anyone stand up for her. She had never seen anyone stand up to them. She kept waiting for the human to run because everyone always ran from conflict with the sellers. But he didn't move. He didn't back away. Instead, he turned slightly and whispered to Lyra, when I say go, stay close behind me. Lyra nodded. Even though her legs felt weak, fear twisted in her stomach. She wasn't brave like him. She wasn't strong. She was just a girl with $2 and no place in this world. The biggest seller raised his staff. Last warning, human. Give her back. The human's eyes narrowed. She isn't an item to return." Without waiting for another word, the sellers lunged. The human moved faster than Lyra could understand. He stepped to the side, grabbed the arm of the seller closest to him, and twisted it gently but firmly, making the alien drop his staff. With a metallic clang, it happened so smoothly that for a moment the attackers froze, unsure of what they'd just seen. "Now," the human murmured. Lyra followed him as he pushed through the smallest gap between the sellers. He didn't hit them, he didn't attack. He simply dodged them with calm, controlled movements, using their own momentum against them. The crowd gasped as the human and Lyra escaped the circle and ran toward the back alley of the marketplace. "Stop them!" the sellers roared. More aliens joined the chase, some workers, some people who just wanted to earn a reward. Lyra heard footsteps pounding behind them. Her breath came out in sharp bursts. "This way," the human said, guiding her into a narrow alley between two old buildings. The walls were cracked and pipes leaked steam into the air. "Who are you?" Lyra whispered breathlessly. "Later," he said. "Right now we run." They turned a corner and passed through a tunnel-like walkway. Lyra stumbled, but the human caught her arm before she fell. His grip was gentle, but strong enough to keep her steady. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, even though her chest was burning. Why are you helping me?" He didn't answer immediately. His eyes scanned the area, checking for danger. "Because you needed help, and because no one else cared." Lyra looked down at her hands. No one had ever said something like that to her. They hurried down another stretch of abandoned stalls. Old signs hung crookedly, and the air smelled like rust. For a moment, they thought they had escaped. Then Lyra saw movement behind them. "They're still coming," she whispered. The human looked back. The sellers and a few guards had spotted them again and were running harder. "Stay with me," he said. He led her to a metal door half hidden behind a broken vending machine. He pressed a small button on the side. The door slid open with a soft buzz. In here, Lyra hesitated. The room behind the door was dark and unfamiliar, but the shouts of the sellers were getting closer, echoing down the alley like thunder. She stepped inside. The human followed and closed the door behind them. They were in a narrow maintenance hallway, dimly lit by flickering yellow lights. "What is this place?" she whispered. "A service path," he said. "Most aliens don't know about it. It leads outside the market." Lyra leaned against the wall, trying to steady her breathing. The human stood near the door, listening carefully. "I don't understand," Lyra said softly. "You don't know me. You don't even know my name. Why take this risk?" The human finally turned, his expression gentle but serious. "You shouldn't have to suffer for things you didn't choose," he said. "No one should." Lyra swallowed hard. No one had ever said anything like that to her. No one had ever acted like her life mattered. The footsteps and angry voices faded outside the door. For the first time that day, it was quiet, but the human's voice broke the silence. "We're not safe yet," he said. "They will keep looking." He offered his hand to her. "Come with me. I won't leave you." Lyra stared at his hand, at his eyes, at his kindness, and slowly, she placed her hand in his. Lyra followed the human through the narrow, dim hallway. The lights buzzed softly above them, and the air smelled of metal and old wiring. Her hand stayed in his, warm and steady, guiding her through the shadows. It felt strange, comforting, but strange. No one had ever held her hand before, not like this. Not with kindness. They walked until the hallway opened into a quieter part of the city, a hidden service area behind the marketplace. Pipes ran along the walls, and the sound of distant machinery echoed around them. It was abandoned, forgotten, but safe for now. The human finally stopped beside an old metal crate. He let go of her hand slowly, as if making sure she didn't feel suddenly alone again. You should rest, he said gently. Lyra sat down on the crate. Her legs were shaking from all the running and fear. The human crouched in front of her, checking the cuts on her hands and the bruises on her arms. His touch was careful, slow, soft, and respectful. You're hurt, he said. I'm fine. Lyra whispered automatically. That was what she always said. She had learned long ago that no one cared if she was hurt, but the human shook his head. No, you're not fine, and it's okay to say that. Lyra looked away, feeling a strange heat in her chest. No one had ever allowed her to feel weak. No one had ever told her weakness didn't make her worthless. The human sat beside her on the crate. My name is Jonah, he said. Lyra looked up surprised. She whispered, Jonah. His name felt soft on her tongue, warm like his voice, calm like his presence. And what's your name? Jonah asked. She hesitated. Her name had never felt important before. But she answered quietly, Lyra. Jonah smiled a little. Lyra. That's a good name. Her heart fluttered. She didn't know why. But no one had ever said her name like that, slow, gentle, as if it mattered. Jonah reached into a small bag at his side and handed her a wrapped food bar. Eat, he said. You need strength. Lyra held the bar carefully, almost afraid it would vanish. She took a small bite, and tears filled her eyes instantly. It was the first time in days that she had tasted real food. Jonah noticed her tears. Hey, it's okay, he said softly. You're safe with me. Lyra wiped her eyes quickly. Why? She whispered. Why help me? I'm nobody. Jonah shook his head strongly. You're not nobody. You're someone who deserved better than what they gave you. She stared at him, confused. But you don't know me. That doesn't matter, Jonah said. Sometimes you help someone because it's right, not because you expect something back. Lyra held the food bar tightly. Humans are different, she said quietly. Jonah laughed softly. Some of us are, some aren't. We're not perfect. No, Lyra said. You are kind. Jonah looked away for a moment, his expression changing. His eyes carried a sadness she hadn't seen before. I wasn't always, he said quietly. I had someone in my life. Someone I cared about, but I lost them. And I couldn't save them. Lyra's breath caught. Jonah's voice held deep pain. I promised myself, he continued, that if I ever saw someone in pain and I could help, I would. Lyra looked at him with new understanding. Jonah didn't just help her because she was weak. He helped her because he knew what suffering felt like, because he cared, because he refused to walk away again. Thank you, Lyra whispered, for choosing to help me. Jonah looked into her eyes. I didn't choose you, Lyra. I just saw. You, really saw you. Maybe for the first time someone should. Lyra felt her chest warm in a way she had never felt before. Jonah wasn't saving her out of pity. He was saving her because he believed she deserved a chance. Outside, the distant shouts of the sellers faded completely. Inside, something new began to grow between them, something gentle, something hopeful, something that felt like the beginning of a bond neither of them had expected. Lyra and Jonah rested in the quiet service area for a few minutes. The world outside felt far away, like the marketplace belonged to another lifetime, but Lyra knew danger was not gone. The sellers would not let her go so easily. She had escaped before, and they always came back. Jonah stood up and looked down the long, narrow maintenance hall. We should move before they find this place. Lyra nodded. Her legs still felt weak, but she pushed herself to stand. Jonah walked beside her, close enough to protect her, but not close enough to make her feel trapped. Every time she looked at him, she felt a strange mixture of safety and confusion. She had never known a world where someone cared. As they walked, Lyra spoke softly. Jonah, the sellers, they won't stop. They never stop. Jonah glanced at her. I know. That's why we need to leave the city. Leave? Lyra whispered. The word felt unreal. Leaving the city meant leaving the familiar pain behind, but also stepping into the unknown. Jonah nodded. I have a ship outside the lower district. A ship. A way out. A chance for a new life. Lyra felt dizzy. Would you really take me? You shouldn't stay here, Jonah said. You deserve better than being hunted. Lyra lowered her eyes. I don't know what I deserve. Jonah slowed his steps and looked at her carefully. Lyra, people don't deserve pain. They don't deserve to be owned. They don't deserve to be treated like objects. You didn't choose this life. She blinked, eyes stinging. No one had ever told her she deserved anything good. The sellers had always said she was lucky to even breathe. They continued through the maintenance corridor until they reached an old hatch door. Jonah pushed it open slowly. The next area was darker, filled with metal crates and heavy shadows as they stepped inside. Lyra suddenly froze. Something felt wrong. Jonah noticed it too. His body tensed, and he raised his hand, signaling her to stay behind him. A voice echoed from the darkness. You can't run forever, little runaway. Lyra's breath caught. She recognized that voice instantly. The tallest seller stepped out from behind a stack of crates, followed by 3 others. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, like predators waiting to strike. How did they find us? Lyra whispered. Jonah's voice was steady. They followed the maintenance routes. The sellers smirked. Human, the leader said. You caused us a lot of trouble. Let the girl go, and we might ignore your mistake. Jonah didn't move. She said no. The leader growled. She doesn't get to choose. Jonah's expression darkened. Everyone gets to choose. Lyra trembled behind him. She felt helpless again, as if the world was pulling her back into darkness. But Jonah didn't step aside. Then the leader pointed at Jonah. Why risk your life for her? She is worth nothing. She is broken. Lyra felt those words like knives. But Jonah stepped forward. She is not broken, he said firmly. She is surviving. There's a difference. The sellers tightened their grip on their staffs. Jonah continued. You chase her because she escaped. Because she didn't let. You own her. That makes her strong. Lyra gasped softly. Strong? No one had ever called her strong. She had always thought her existence was weakness. The leader hissed. We will take her back, even if we must kill you. Jonah's voice dropped. You won't. The sellers charged. Jonah grabbed Lyra's hand and whispered, Run. They darted between crates as the sellers chased them. Metal clanged, shouts echoed, and shadows shifted like living creatures. Jonah led her with precision, dodging attacks, pulling her into narrow spaces where the sellers couldn't reach. But the leader was faster than Lyra expected. He leaped forward, swinging his staff toward Jonah's head. Lyra screamed, Jonah! Jonah blocked the strike with his forearm, stumbling but not falling. Pain shot through him, but he pushed Lyra further. Keep going! No, she cried. I won't leave you. Jonah turned toward her with fierce eyes. Lyra, listen, your life matters. Don't let them take that from you. His words hit her harder than the chaos around them. Your life matters. Her legs moved before her mind did. She grabbed Jonah's arm and pulled him with her. Together, they burst through a rusted side door and stumbled into the moonlit lower district. Behind them, the sellers roared in frustration. They had escaped again. But the danger was growing, and Lyra now understood one thing clearly. Jonah wasn't just protecting her. He believed in her, maybe more than she believed in herself. Asterisk, the lower district, was quiet under the soft glow of the moon. Lyra and Jonah ran through narrow alleys, their breaths coming in sharp, uneven bursts. Behind them, the marketplace chaos faded into the distance. The shouts of the sellers became echoes, distant and powerless. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt a tiny spark of hope. She looked at Jonah as they ran. His eyes, steady and determined, held no fear. He was not just a protector. He was her anchor, guiding her through a world that had never treated her kindly. They reached a small abandoned hangar at the edge of the district. Jonah pressed a sequence on a hidden panel, and a small ship's door opened with a hiss. Light spilled into the dark hangar, revealing a sleek, simple vessel. It was not flashy, but it was safe. And it was theirs for now. Lyra stepped inside first, careful, cautious. Her fingers brushed the metal wall as she tried to calm her racing heart. Jonah followed closely, closing the door behind them. The sound of the marketplace was gone. Silence wrapped around them like a soft blanket. Jonah turned to her. "We're safe here," he said. "For tonight at least." Lyra sank onto a seat, feeling her legs tremble. The adrenaline of running and escaping was fading, leaving her exhausted but strangely alive. She looked at Jonah, searching his face. Why did you help me?" she asked, voice small. Jonah took a seat beside her. "Because someone once helped me," he said quietly. "When I was lost, when I had nothing. And I promised myself that if I ever could, I would do the same. For someone else. I saw you, Lyra, really saw you. And I couldn't just walk away." Lyra's chest tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever seen her. And yet, here he was, standing by her, risking everything. She realized then that her life, her tiny, fragile existence, mattered to someone. For the first time, it felt real. "Even when I had $2? She whispered, almost laughing at the absurdity. "Even when I was nothing?" Jonah smiled softly. "Especially." "Then," he said, "your value is not what others say it is. It's who you are, and who you can become." Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She hadn't cried in months, but now they fell freely. Not because of fear, not because of pain, but because of something stronger: hope. The hope that someone could see her, believe in her, and care for her just because she existed. Jonah reached over and gently held her hand. "You are more than this world gave you," he said. "More than anyone tried to make you believe. And I'll make sure you never forget that." Lyra looked at him, really looked, and felt something stir in her heart, a feeling she never knew she could have. Trust, safety, and maybe love. Outside, the night sky stretched endlessly, filled with stars. Lyra gazed out the small ship window, imagining the vast galaxy. For the first time, it didn't feel empty or cruel. It felt full of possibilities. She wasn't alone anymore. And for the first time, she didn't feel like a $2 mistake. She felt like someone who mattered. Jonah placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Tomorrow we leave this city. We go somewhere new, somewhere no one can hurt you again." Lyra nodded, her tears drying as a faint smile appeared. She squeezed his hand. "I don't know what the future holds, but I want to see it with you." A human who once seemed like a stranger now felt like home. And for Lyra, that was enough. The hangar doors closed behind them. Outside, the sellers searched in vain. Inside, Lyra took a deep breath, letting go of the fear and pain that had weighed her down for so long. She looked at Jonah one last time before turning to the controls. "Where to first?" she asked. "Anywhere," Jonah said, smiling. "As long as it's together." And for the first time, Lyra truly believed it. Humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons or power. It was in courage, kindness, and the willingness to see value in others, no matter how small they seemed. The ship lifted off the ground, gliding into the starry night. Lyra looked out at the endless sky and whispered softly to herself, "I am worth more than $2. I am more than this world ever gave me, and maybe I can finally be free." The stars stretched endlessly before them, and together they flew into a new beginning.